So to come to the one where the first engagement was around HS2, and what we did in preparation for that was it's a process we do quite a lot of, which is to map out a journey experience. Nothing you're probably not familiar with. It's like an end-to-end journey experience, like storyboarding out all of the moments, all the things that happen in a transport journey, from booking the tickets through to getting to the station, getting to the right platform, finding your train, boarding the train, finding your seat, getting your luggage, like all of these things that we're all so familiar with. So we mapped out a skeleton of that journey, of like the archetypal journey. And then we got together as a group initially to talk around the bigger macro stages of that, where the biggest challenges lay and the biggest opportunities therefore were for improvement. And so that exercise was really enlightening, just trying to think about particularly the getting to the station and the boarding process and the challenges of kind of getting your luggage on. So there was a lot of insight coming from that we were noting down and starting to pull together concepts from. And just on the next page, the second stage of that workshop was to break out into smaller groups and go through that journey experience in a more singular way. So with Andy, Carly, and Will, going through from their perspectives and trying to pluck out what are the real challenges. And that threw up some insights that, I'll be honest, I hadn't seen before. My eyes opened to some of these things when you really kind of go through it with lived experience. Andy talked about, as a partially sort of visually impaired, the experience of going on to the toilet on board a train. Now that's not great for any of us, let's be honest. But the idea of going to the toilet and then having to put your hands on the wall and feel around to find the flush button that happens to be behind the toilet seat. So you've already kind of put your hands all over a toilet wall in order to flush the toilet. You then go and try and wash your hands, and there's sensors there. So you're putting your hands under he doesn't read Braille, and not a lot of people, according to Andy, do. And so it's not the first thing you look for. It would be more a case of trying to feel your way around. So finding soap before you find water, or worse, after. And so you've then got soap on your hands, or setting off the hand dryer when you're trying to find the water. It's all in all just a horrendous experience. And that's not to say even the locking the door experience is great either. There's just so many problems with it. And so there is a process of trying to note down these problems, these lived experiences, and then explore them and say, okay, well, how could we do things differently? And that then drives ideas that fed into the submission that we put back to the client around things that we could do to make the experience better for everybody.
I just, for what it's worth, the session was brilliant. And I just want to, while we're on a webinar and it's going to be recorded and will exist forever, I just want to really thank Rich, because he was majorly part of the inception. He did come up with this concept of an Avengers team, and it did spark the imagination to think, well, what does that look like? If I'm Nick Fury or Professor X, well, who are my X-Men? But more to the point, they were just fantastic at hand-holding and creating a really inclusive experience from the off. Sarah, the project manager, just sending great correspondence. How is the day going to work? What are we going to look like? What does Andy need? What does Carly need? And it was a revelatory experience for myself, because I haven't worked that closely with anyone who's visually impaired, and it completely brought to life the entire concept that I can only speak from my lived experience. So I picked Andy up from the station and I drove myself and Carly. We all went together down to forpeople in Vauxhall. And, it was great. It was a really nice team outing. And it felt as if, we were all getting something out of it. I've spoken to Carly and Andy since. And the thing that Carly really gets something from, and I'll wrap this up quickly, is that she's the only one of us who's had a disability from birth. And so her entire lived experience growing up was very different to mine, and very difficult because attitudes have changed massively. But because of the task force, she actually feels as if now her entire life experience is collateral. It's like it has value. She can draw upon it. All those negatives suddenly become points of discussion and become majorly interesting for people like Rich and his team. So just so much gratitude towards forpeople. It was a wonderful session, and we really look forward to replicating it. And as you can see, the conversations were very engaging. So yeah, thank you, Rich, for that.
That's all right. Just as one point to add on to that, I think the thing that we got from that process was you obviously don't know what you don't know until you do a process like this, and you start to discover actually there's more perspectives here and there's things that we can do to improve the design and the experience. And because of this was very much a pilot for all of us initially to get it going. Off the back of this, we've then gone on to do further collaborations with the task force and Will and the team, and that's been focused primarily around hospitality experiences, but the plan is that we're going to move that into product development as well and try and work together in more ways. I think all that to say is that the enthusiasm and willingness to kind of support, I think, means that if you've got ideas, even if it's early ideas about something you're exploring, I noticed, Manoj, you kind of put a question on the group. If you've got questions, I think Will and the team are open to talking with you, figuring out how they can work with you, and then building their process and a project process that would fit for you. So I'd really encourage you to get in touch.